a few more extra seconds for people to come in and have a seat.
Really looking forward to it.
It's gonna be fun, and I can't wait for you to explain what you're doing outside like this. It's gonna be one of the first topic to talk about. It's hard to beat as an office location. That's what I would say.
Oh, I know. Well, we're very fortunate to have the BIMstream field office on an oyster farm. One of my best friends owns Island Creek Oyster down here in Duxbury, Massachusetts. So, just super fortunate to actually have, our field office here. I live in town. So, shedding that, Duxbury to Cambridge commute, which could be 2 hours each way, for a 5-minute commute is really, it adds a lot of value to my life. But I wish you could all smell this.
Quality of life is, and I think that's one of the results, especially with COVID for a couple of years, where all of us have changed how we work, and I think the value of being close to like a site like you have like there is pretty amazing. And yeah, I'm sure the smell of the ocean and everything is pretty soothing. Just for that.
I wish you could smell it. There's you can see some boats out there.
Yeah.
But it's good. Yeah, I mean, COVID was really tough. One of the things that I thought that one of the positives that came out from that is the acceptance of remote work. It was basically frowned upon before COVID. Then it became essential, and now I think there's a lot of value in being able to have remote as part of your workflow. So you're sort of
absolutely
your work.
I think having a good blend. Okay, so we'll start into a bit more of the topics we're going to cover. I think that for one, we're really happy about this webinar because everybody that's seen a lot of our demos, like in showcase videos, often include content that was captured and scanned by BIMstream, and so they are definitely delivering high quality data. And we'll talk about a bit of the secret sauce and what they do to get such great looking data into Prevu3D. But perhaps we just start with Peter, if you want to spend a few minutes, just tell us about you a bit more. You have a great career, starting at SOM, and just go from there and tell us how you got to where you are today and the amazing story that's about BIMstream.
Yeah, I mean, I always sort of, when I look back on things, I just find myself very fortunate, very lucky. My first firm, as you said, SOM, Skid Moorings and Merrill, which they were super tech focused. I think before I got there, this was 1990, they had already developed 2 in-house CAD programs because there was just nothing out there for them to be able to design and document. So when I got there, they were starting Architectural Engineering Series, which was a partnership with IBM. And so I was on the beta team to sort of test it out. And it was pretty advanced for its time. It was 3D when, very, very few software applications for architects and engineers were 3D. Had a structural component, had a rendering component. But then one of the things that really, excited me is that it connected the databases. So instead of just lines on a screen, those lines meant something when they connected to textual databases. So I was fortunate enough to, it was commercially available. IBM and SOM sold AES, across the world, and the Australian government bought it. They asked if they could borrow me for 6 months. 6 months turned into 10 years. Met my wife on my first day in Australia, had two lovely daughters down there who both ended up going back down to Australia for university. So 10 years, moved back to the States here, and I started a visualization firm. So we focused on films and stills and renderings. And I kept hearing over and over and seeing owners not having, data on their portfolios. You know, they'd always say, talk to the architect. Architect never wanted to share that data with us. So we were constantly sort of starting from scratch. And these are the best and brightest companies, you know, Equity Office, Boston Properties, those sort of companies. So in 2010, light bulb went off in my head to say, if I could somehow put this data in the hands of owners, you know, they could start leveraging it quite a bit. So started a startup called Hive in 2010 and spent the next 5 years trying to get that off the ground. You know, it was sort of widely accepted that the idea of getting, you know, putting data up in the cloud and having the owners sort of, you know, run that was a great idea. But every single time we got close to funding, you know, the scaling aspect of Hive, you know, reared its ugly head. And at the time, in 2010 to 2015, we just didn't have the sort of sensors we have right now. We just didn't have the technology. So my wife said, you know, you can't be in a startup your whole life. So sort of pivoted in 2015, started BIMstream, focused, you know, solely on services and, you know, cracking that nut because I still desperately wanted to get Hive off the ground. You know, we put 5 years effort into that, hundreds of user stories, white papers, the whole 9 yards, and a lot of, you know, positive experience from it. But you know, I wanted to crack that nut in terms of capture in the field. So, you know, the emergence of mobile LiDAR SLAM scanners, you know, became evident. I took on a partner, and then, you know, we've grown from 2015. It was, you know, essentially started myself, and now we're sort of seeing the 100 employee sort of like milestone coming up. So, you know, super excited about the space. Super excited about, you know, tech both on the software side and the hardware side.
Yeah, and that's great. Like, you know,
so
growth
quickly.
from 0 to 100 employees in that amount of time is always quite an achievement. So that's already pretty impressive. Now, how much 3D scanning do you do like in a given month? I know you're doing quite a lot, right? And you're doing a lot of spaces and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it fluctuates. We've got a lot of different sort of market sectors we deal with. So, you know, healthcare is got its challenges. You know, you have to wear special, you know, to do any above ceiling capture, you've got to have these special enclosures that, you know, keep the, you know, any sort of contaminants contained. But, you know, we have the capacity to do anywhere between 5 and 8 million square feet a month. With the sensors we have and the folks we have in the field. And, you know, we want to grow that. We want to continue to grow it. We're looking to open up an office down in Florida this year, like probably in September, October. We've got some opportunities to be able to open up an office in New York. And then we have ideas on Dallas and Phoenix to sort of round out the beginning of next year. But we just see an increased desire for this. And a lot of this is emanating from owners, which, you know, typically 5 years ago, most of our work came from architects and engineers. But it sort of flipped. And, you know, seeing, you know, new technology arrive. And when I say new, I mean, you guys have been working on Prevu3D for years. So it's definitely not new, but I think it's matured to the level now that it's got incredible value, and just what you guys are doing, you know, with mesh is just amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, actually, one thing we could do, like Phil, which is our customer success manager as well on the call, will show some of the content that we got from you guys. And so the first one I think he's going to share on screen is actually one of our famous demo data set that we show almost virtually every day. And the one thing that I wanted to talk about is obviously, you know, scanners are more accessible today, but we know that the type of data that you generate, the quality that you generate is not just because you have the scanner, you go out there and you point and shoot. There's something extra you're doing. And without divulging too much of your secret sauce, what are exactly some of these things, or your philosophy that you have with 3D scanning to get this higher quality that some other people don't necessarily achieve when they do the 3D scanning process?
Yeah, I mean, we're super grateful to have amazing clients. I mean, this is Black Fan, this is Biomed Realty. So, spectacular, looking space. So I think that's, always really helpful to have exciting, dynamic space. And then, I would say, the secret sauce is just amazing field crew that are constantly ideating around how to do stuff better. I mean, whenever we know that we're going to do, I mean, obviously each project is different, right? So if we're doing a project for architectural surfaces, we can use certain sensors. If we're doing above ceiling, which we do a tremendous amount, obviously that's another. But it's ideating around, how to constantly improve. And when we have a Prevu3D project, it adds an additional spark because we know so much of it's going to be visual, right? I mean, most of our work is, we're scanning and then we're modeling in BIM. So the visual, we can take care of that, on the modeling side. But we know that the meshes, to make sure that they're super gorgeous and, rich in detail, for yours, we just take extra care. And, it's a matter of just, spending the time. And but we get super excited about producing really great work. I think that's a major part of our success.
Absolutely. And what I find interesting with the type of quality that you're generating is that it opens up doors within owners, right? It's obviously initially 3D scanning was more of a measurement usage, and now when people see the type of visuals that you're capturing and we're creating into Prevu3D, the owners are realizing that, okay, this can be used beyond just an engineering project. This could be used for health and safety planning procedures, or onboarding employees, or even marketing. We've seen some examples of that. And so it's clear to see that the context and the richness that you get out of Prevu3D with the quality of the scanning you do is changing how we can engage customers in the different. And I'm sure you've seen that a lot more recently in the coming years. People are becoming more aware of that. This is going beyond just, quick engineering projects.
Oh, yeah. And what I'm really excited about is that, our in the field, time in the field, that data is now being used and leveraged for so many different, unique streams, right? So we're in the field, we're doing, RTC work, say for something like what we're seeing just up there. That data can be used by our modeling team, obviously, to do all the Revit modeling. But then that same data set, we send that to you guys, and you produce that amazing mesh. And like you said, I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that can be used. I'm fascinated by, not just owners using this, but like we've talked about, insurance companies using this, and it just has a lot of different use cases. And when we do presentations, we have so many different things to show now. In the past it was very simple. You'd get a project usually by an architect or an engineer. We'd scan it and deliver it, and that would be it. Now, we're doing a lot of presentations to big owners with portfolios, and to be able to show them, the myriad of different deliverables, for one, field capture is pretty special.
Absolutely. I think here Phil's showing us is a virtual persona in exploring the space, which is again a key feature that we have in Prevu3D. Like, this is a full 3D environment, of course, so it becomes fully interactive. You can navigate and everything. Actually, people that are attending this webinar, don't be shy in asking some questions. We want this to be an open, free form, fire chat sessions. So if you're on LinkedIn or other streaming outlets, feel free to ask some questions away. We'll try to answer any of them as well as we can.
Yeah,
Here's Paul's trying to jump some machinery.
Definitely fire away.
Absolutely. And so maybe one question for you now is like, obviously with doing 5-6 million square feet a month, I'm sure you've done the weird and crazy projects. I know that for one, you did a scan of the whole Fenway Park, which must have been a pretty exciting experience. Can you talk about this one or other special cases of things that you've digitized and scanned over the past years that it could be funny stories?
Yeah, I mean, Fenway, just was an amazing experience. Being, from this area, was a huge Red Sox fan. So being able to basically scan every element of the park. In fact, we are just about wrapping up the scanning. I think next week we're going to be going into the Green Monster, and that's getting very close to finishing it off. We're about to do a full structural model of the park, in addition to the architectural surfaces and the MEP. So that's going to be pretty exciting. Some of the structure is sort of not accessible, so we'll be using some historic drawings for that. Cool. So that's been a really exciting project. We've also done a lot of aerial capture in creating mesh from drones, the photogrammetry.
Oh, great! And
that's all. We use ground control for that. We've flown that Fenway probably over 60 times. So it's always exciting. I remember the first time that we flew there. Oh my gosh, must have been 6-7 years ago. People freaked out. There's a drone in the air, call the police. Now it's like literally we can fly a drone in the middle of I mean, obviously we follow every single rule. We never break any rules. We've got an impeccable record with the FAA. But now it's like people don't even look up. But
we're used to it now.
Yeah, I am excited about the potential of Prevu3D with reality capture in terms of the aerial stuff. I know we've sort of talked about that here and there, but that's got some really interesting potential. But those meshes, are pretty exciting. We just flew Logan Airport. We did 400 acres. Yeah, 400 acres. It was basically 200 acres, but we had two missions. And we used a Wingtra Gen 2 drone, which is, it sort of flies like an aircraft. So it takes off vertically and then it flies horizontally. Yeah. And we were the first company that Logan allowed to fly an untethered drone. So felt pretty special about that. They shut down a runway for us. So that was a really interesting one. Trying to think of some other, we've done lots of historic preservation projects. We just recently scanned an entire island down near St. Thomas, which was pretty exciting. A full island. We did a reality mesh on that, as well as some Navids, the BLX. We're going to model the entire. We model it. We have a photogrammetry mesh, and we're going to model the whole thing in Revit as well.
That's great. We have a question here from Michael that's asking about: is survey control a typical part of the process?
Absolutely. We just like for our aerial capture, we put down ground control. So that's a real key aspect of making sure that the mesh is accurate and geolocated. Because architects typically can bring those mesh models right into Enscape or Twin Motion, and they're geolocated so the sun comes up in the right spot. If they're replacing some mesh geometry, they're editing the mesh and they're putting in their building. They're confident in terms of the dimensionality of the mesh. So that's super key. We just wrapped up Austin Airport. So we were there for several weeks with a large crew, and we had a survey partner that we brought in under us that that actually interacted with Austin Airport in terms of being able to. They didn't have a lot of control there, so they had to tie into some existing control, and then they had to put control throughout the entire airport campus for us, and we integrated that into our reality capture. But yeah, that's becoming, super key element of whatever we're doing is that sort of control, that survey control.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. I think we're going to show also now on screen. Phil has a scene. Actually, we've taken some of your BIM model creation and combined it with the scan into Prevu3D. And that's something that's quite unique in our product, to really create this type of customer deliverables that can help understand what's the existing conditions and what's either being built or renovated or changed, combining CAD BIM with the 3D scanning data. And again, great example of the quality of the visuals again that we're seeing. I've been in the 3D space for a long time, and I'm always fascinated in how amazing the visual look into Prevu3D. It's always a good experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I see we have a few more questions. François Olivier, one of our account managers, is asking, what has been your journey as a partner with Prevu3D? Can you talk about what are we bringing to the table in your eyes that is interesting for BIMstream?
Oh yeah, I mean, I reached out to Nick. I think it must have been 6-7 years ago. I saw something that he published or did on LinkedIn, and I remember I called him. He answered the phone, and we talked for like an hour. I was in my car. I was like, and we just talked about, things that I was doing, things that he was doing. I was fascinated with what he was doing at Prevu3D, and been up to see you guys and many times. I think I love the spirit of the company, and so respectful of what you guys have built. I really love the fact that super nimble, and that you have these sort of these short development sprints that allow you to deliver value to and additional features to customers. So I mean, you're in a situation where you're getting feedback all the time, wish lists and features, and I'm just always so impressed with your ability as a team to be able to make that happen. Some of the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, we definitely like to be customer driven, like understanding customer problems and how to solve them in unique ways that creates these exciting environments. I know that Alberto has a question about what features we'd like to see in Prevu3D, and I'm sure you've got a few requests, and I know some of them that you'll ask for that were in beta development. But if you want to talk about some of the things that you'd like to see, or things that you want to get sooner than later into our product.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is AI driven. So, the auto classification tool, I just think is magic. To be able to process a mesh and auto classify all the equipment inside a space, just puts information at the fingertips of facilities folks that they just didn't have. I mean, to understand, this is the equipment that you have in the space. And be able to sort of like line it up with what you really honestly believe. I mean, some of these folks that get into these positions, they don't have the history behind the space like perhaps somebody that was there for a long time. So, it gives them the ability to understand what they have, and that's asset management is a huge market sector, and that's where
definitely. Yeah.
What we really see in the industry is that our traditional BIM deliverable, was basically had a sort of single, focus, right? It was on design, construction, refit, things like that. Now owners are seeing the benefit of this modeling data, that touches not only AEC. I mean, that's one one sort of use case, but like the asset folks, the facilities folks, the management folks, the space planning, and it just the list is just getting larger and larger, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I see that Michael has a second question about, do you tag assets on a mesh? And we do that right now manually, but with this upcoming segmentation tool that we're going to have pretty soon, it's going to make it a lot easier to classify, segment, and organize your space based on how things were segmented using our automatic segmentation capabilities. And like you say, Peter, this is going to be a big change, because ultimately, customers want to make their environment more intelligent in their digital form. It's not just one thing to have like a mesh or a CAD model. They want to understand what they're looking at, and that's what we're seeing with this whole notion of digital twins, is to be able to click on a object and then know, okay, well, I know what's the part number of this object. I know if there's any planned work orders coming on this, or inspection schedules, or do I have inventory for parts that needs to be replaced and stuff like that. That creates this new degree of context around the scanned environment. And that's really where you're going to see a lot what we're doing based on feedback, like from folks like at BIMstream, but other companies like that. Our customers are asking us to make our meshes more intelligent, and that's definitely part of the roadmap.
Well, and I'm seeing that, that word digital twin, right? It's everybody's talking about that, and it's not just BIM at all. Like I said, when we're in the field, we're collecting data that allows us to go ahead and construct BIM, but that same data that we're using to construct the BIM gets pushed in directions like Prevu3D. And so I don't think it's a one or the other. I think that any sort of company that wants to leverage this, they're going to have a myriad of different data sets for different purposes. So
absolutely. And yes, we're just scratching the surface. Like, I think that for us, as you said, like, we've been around for several years, and the first thing was to solve how to make 3D scanning data look as great as it can be, making it fully interactive, fluid, running on both web or desktop environments. And now it's really bringing that intelligence that you're going to start seeing more and more of these capabilities that we're working on. And it really is very timely, because now we're seeing every week now customers, joint customers that we have with you, Peter, as well, that are looking for that are starting to think about, how do I bring my factory, my site, to a whole different level, and just beyond just visualizing it.
Yeah, and the exciting thing about, in addition to all that, is that we can, our infield, our reality capture can literally, like the next day, produce this Prevu3D data set, this mesh. So it's like, it's the ability to sort of, provide instant gratification. I mean, the modeling on our end for the BIM, might take weeks, but the Prevu3D mesh is available, pretty much within hours, which is very cool.
Absolutely.
Very, very cool.
Antonio here has a question about if we're thinking of incorporating 2D CAD PDF plans. Yeah, definitely that's in the works. Often we see our customers asking about integration of like PNIDs, for example, to see their process flow diagrams. And so this is something that we're definitely are actively working on to really bridge that gap between non-spatial documentation like a PNID with the spatial information that you have in Prevu3D. I see here another question from Ravi. It's a pretty long question. Okay, when you're creating a 3D model of an entire stadium, have you integrated both sets of data to generate a comprehensive 3D model? So basically the question is like, if you're merging, let's say, drone and terrestrial scanner and other type of scanning data, how do you, what are your guidelines or best ways of making this work properly? And it's not an easy, question, but
Yeah, no, great question. Really great question. And, we merge all kinds of, scanning data sets. So when we're in the field, we use the NavViz VLX, that wearable sensor that has the 2 mobile LiDAR sensors, the 360 camera. And we can collect, all the architectural surfaces. And then when we're doing above ceiling capture, we're using the geoslam, putting it on a monopole up into the plenum. We put a 360 camera up there as well. And then we might have in some of the areas, well, this is Dartmouth, Leverone Fieldhouse, where we have sort of voluminous interiors. We'll need to use the RTC, a little bit more range, and with photos on, we can combine that data set. So we on almost all of our projects could have a mix of sensors, could have VOX, geoslam, and terrestrial RTC 360 data. We just have an amazing team, which I really can't say enough about. Our field team they're wonder if you're gonna win the race there. Our field teams are just unbelievable, but I really have to put a huge shout out to our modeling team, which are strictly architects and engineers. They're just they blow me away every day with their their effort, their the quality. So we have a really good sort of process from the field capture, processing, and sort of like a conveyor belt. Modeling team grabs that data. They might continue the processing, and then there's some QA QC back and forth between the processing modeling team with the field team, and then obviously the construction of the models, but and then more QC after that. So it's a process that that's sort of where you got lots of people touching the data continuously. This was a good project up at Dartmouth College. We also did the Thompson Arena, which is right nearby. We never. This was just one a data set that you guys said. Do you have anything that's might be less traditional? So I remember that we used because of the type of interior, we used a ton of RTC 360 on this project. So this was a neat one. How fast can that man run?
Yeah, Phil, he needs to run again. Yeah, there you go. Or drive. That's a it's a cyber truck.
Yeah, those things can go faster than.
And I'm sure that over the past 7-8 years, obviously we're seeing scanners increasing quality, resolution, and speed of scanning. So is there areas where 5-7 years ago you would not have thought of doing certain things, but now it seems to be possible with the evolution of the scanning devices?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we couldn't do what we're doing now 5 or 6 years ago. So I mean, that just goes without saying, but that's what really is super exciting about the field. We're really we're nerds when it comes to all that. So but we've come across some projects recently where we had a project, 2 condominium projects that did not have a lot of ACT. It was like solid hard ceilings. We had very, very limited access to there. They did not want to cut, so we had to use. So we used phones to get into access panels in a couple areas where there was some demo. There was somebody that had one of their units demoed. We were able to use this, and we created reality meshes of the conduits and the pipes that were in those spaces. And we're able to use that data quite effectively. So that's definitely something that we couldn't have done 4 or 5 years ago that we're doing now. And I think that's just going to increase. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think the market's still young in a way that we're often educating even fairly large companies about the value of the type of 3D meshes that we're creating with Prevu and the quality of the scanning data that your company like yours is doing. And I think that it's just going to start to grow even more. Like we're starting to see, like, year over year, it's incredible now the demand that we're seeing. Each year it's getting more and more because the market is becoming aware that the value of meshes is definitely, a whole new way of, if you've looked enough at point clouds in your life, then you realize how much valuable a 3D mesh is compared to a point cloud.
Oh, it is. And it's sort of like the gamification to a certain degree, right? I mean, you sort of feel like you're in a video game, which is sort of neat. And, it's relatable. It's not this sort of like tectonic, you need, 2 years of experience to be able to open something up. It's like, and that's why, what we're trying to do with Hive, now that Hive is sort of going back on the front burner, is that we're trying to make BIM more accessible, or not just BIM. I mean, the mesh is more accessible. So user friendly. So sort of breaking these data sets down into sort of elements that are easily digestible and user friendly. So super excited about that.
Absolutely. So, obviously, you're currently your office is on an oyster farm. So, and I know that you're quite a foodie and love wine. Like, what were some of the latest places that you went to eat that you really, was a unique experience?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And if people haven't seen, I can show you. There's, this is the oyster farm. So actually, if anybody wants to come down, BIMstream would love to host anybody that wants to come down and have a day on the farm. We love hosting people. We love we love talking shop, but we also love having a good time. And I know all the times that I've come up to Montreal, we've been able to score some amazing restaurants. I went out with Nick one time to, I think it was called the Tuck Shop. That was amazing. That was in Montreal. But it's interesting on the wine side, because I went to Australia in my sort of mid-20s to sort of mid-30s. That's where I learned about wine. So I have a pretty good experience with Australian wine, but not too much on the French. But I'm a big sushi person, so I try to find the best place I can in wherever we're going, because we go basically. We do work in all 50 states constantly, down in Mexico, obviously up in Canada, mostly in Montreal. We'd love to do more up there. I love Canada. So it's always interesting sort of to find on, at least one night of a trip to be able to find a really great restaurant. I love stone crab. So that's part of the reason why we want to open up the office down in Florida. One is to get away from the winter up here, but then also, which is great. But there's just a ton of work down there. But also stone crab, which get down in Florida, I think between October and May. So and obviously oysters I'm a huge fan of oysters. So again, anybody that wants to come down here.
It's definitely on my list to come and taste those oysters. Clearly, you've told me about that a few times, and it's definitely part of my bucket list of things to do sooner than later. Got a question here from Tracy. It's a bit technical, but again, it's asking questions about segmentation and the type of AI that we're building. And definitely that will help to classify and identify objects. And probably we could take this one more offline and talk to our customer success team and account managers for more details, because obviously that goes beyond just what we're planning to cover in this specific webinar about BIMstream. So you talked earlier about the different offices that you're looking to open up. So that's really exciting. How do you how do you source the talent that you need to look for? Like, obviously growing from 0 to 100 in 7 or 8 years, that's already quite an accomplishment. But how do you go out when you want to open up, let's say, like this office in Florida, how do you go out and find the right talent to help you operate these new sites?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent question. That's goes to the heart of probably any company, is the folks, the people that work there. So we're really we really focus on a little bit of activity happening here. You can see. So sorry about that.
That's all good.
No, we're just very fortunate in that the type of work that we do, the travel opportunities for younger folks, and the kind of projects we work on, the Fenway Parks, the Austin airports, the Logan airports, the hospitals, the portfolios. It's an exciting, canvas that we get to work with. So, we're really fortunate that people reach out to us. But once we start, really we're putting 2 folks down in Florida. But once we start putting, once we start opening up other offices, we're going to have to sort of expand that, that effort. So, but I think it's we really treat everybody, on our team as a family. Sort of sounds cliche, but a lot of the field staff early days were schoolmates of my 2 daughters. So sort of known them for their entire life. Then they went off to college, and then they came back. And so these are kids that a lot of them, I feel like they're my kids as well. So I really I love that sort of family feel, and so it's super important.
Well, I think that's, in all the interactions that we've had, it's clearly the feeling we get. Like, when we reach out to your team about doing projects for customers, it's always easygoing. It's really friendly. It's a collaborative, inclusive environment. And I love that, because like you say, like it's, we think about business, but, behind any business, there's people. And the human side is so important, and I think that you're doing that fantastically well with BIMstream.
Well, that really means a lot, Michel. Honestly, because I think that relationships are, for me, that's the key. We don't do any. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. We don't do any biz dev, which that's going to change. But we don't do any of that right now in any sort of focused. I mean, it's me, talking with people. I guess that's definitely considered biz dev, but it's the relationships we build with our clients. We try to just over deliver every single time, always over exceed, and then they want to stay with us. So, and then they share our names. So, I think that's just so important, and that's what probably gives me the most satisfaction, is the relationships that we build with folks like you, and the product that we deliver. It's something that I'm very proud about, and it means a lot.
Absolutely. One question that we got here from Al, one of our staff, is about the speed of scanning. How is this helping to create value for your customers? Is this something that makes a difference today, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, it absolutely, the ability for us to be able to say with the VLX, and some of my field staff will kill me when I say this, but we typically can say 100,000 square feet. We can easily do that with one sensor. But in the right conditions, might be able to do 125, maybe a little bit more. But if we had to do that, say with a terrestrial scanner, obviously that would take longer. So it's horses for courses. With space, it's like mechanical space. We really wouldn't consider anything other than an RTC, especially if it's a Prevu3D project. But for us to be able to get in and out of space, quickly for, traditional architectural or a project that has MEP above the ceiling, we can get in and out in a matter of, hours. That absolutely, means a lot. And so that's what this technology nowadays is providing. I'm going to be really interested because we've got a Gen 3 VLX on order. So it'll be exciting to be able to sort of test. I don't think it matches 100% to the RTC 360, but I think it's going to get closer than Gen 2 the VLX. So, but I mean, I suspect that's that gap's going to continue to close, and the scan times, even for a terrestrial scanner, will get faster and faster. I mean, I remember using a P50 on a project, and you're talking like 12 to 15 minutes a scan. Now with the RTC, you can get it down to not quite seconds, but a couple minutes.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's for sure the speed of like a single scan or the mobile scanners like the VLX have greatly improved, and the capacity, like you've talked about, like doing 100,000 square feet in just one day is pretty incredible. And without a doubt, the scanners will improve in quality, resolution, image quality. Image quality for us is so important in the texturing that we do out of the camera imagery. And so we're just at the beginning of an exciting time, and that's what we are so happy about, and we're seeing it now more and more. The value of 3D meshes is becoming prevalent. We're seeing more companies, trying to compete with us in the meshing world, but we know we have the best, the fastest, most effective 3D scanning to mesh engine out there, and that makes a whole difference when your time becomes a factor, and it will become a factor more and more for people to get a quick turnaround for their data.
Oh, Prevu3D hands down. Are you kidding? No question about it.
That'd be a great quote. Any other questions on the audience as we're winding down this pretty great webinar with Peter? Don't be shy. You can ask questions. We'll answer them.
Ask me anything.
Yeah. I know there were some questions about new technologies like NERF, and we of course always look at innovations, but right now we're there's a lot of intriguing innovations like NERF, but really they're not yet usable from a manufacturing engineering perspective. They're definitely exciting to see visually, but it's still early on that front for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about. There's a lot of market sectors that we'd love to get involved in that we haven't yet, that you guys really excel. The oil and gas is one that's really exciting. I just got an invitation to go out to, I think it's Milan. I think you guys must be going to that conference.
Not so far, but I would love to know. Okay, I loved going to Milan. I've been there like a few just before COVID. I was in Milan, which was fantastic. So yeah, if there's a show there, I would definitely appreciate going there. Yeah, I think my next show for me is going to be in Berlin for the InterGeo conference in October. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of events going on. Oil and gas for us has been extremely successful. We've seen a lot of interest. Clearly for them, they don't have the CAD plans, so they want to go from scan to meshes and use that for their different processes, and we're seeing a lot of demand for that. That's pretty exciting for us.
Yeah. Oh no, that's just fantastic. And like we were talking about before, without naming names, but entertainment parks not being scanned for the entertainment park owner, but being scanned for the insurance company that insures that entertainment park. So being and so that sort of like blows my mind, right? Because it's not from the owner, but it's for the insurance company that tries to understand and what they're actually insuring. Is there egress? Is that hallway the correct width? Are the fire extinguishers positioned enough in the right spot? So and that essentially saves money for the owner.
Absolutely. And what's key is that you might have the best CAD plans, but they don't reflect the existing conditions. If you have
Right.
like a cracked floor or rusted, pipe or something, it's only through a proper 3D scan with the imagery that you'll really see the actual state. And so like in your example about an insurance company, 100% where if you want to document where things are and not just conceptually, but really see it and document it in a way that you can actually go back and reference that digital copy of the site. Definitely we're starting to see these type of use cases that are pretty exciting, because now you're starting to talk about like really massive scale, and then you need to have these type of quality meshes that will really make a difference.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's where I've really seen a lot, and I think I mentioned it earlier, is that you had the use case for this modeling data basically for construction, and it was all piecemeal. So somebody wanted to renovate a particular floor, they would scan it and model it. But now the fact is that scanning an entire building isn't is probably more efficient and cost effective than scanning 2 floors 6-7 years ago. So the price has come down for capturing, the time has come down for capturing, but then all the use cases have exploded. You've got all the different use cases, and not only use cases, you'll have multiple data sets. You've got mesh, you've got BIM, you've got so
how's it all come together. Tracy has one question here about and I've seen that myself, is how do you assess the best scanner to use when you're doing a specific site or location, and obviously the type of data quality you want to have and the speed and the time you have. Do you have like your own, of course you've got knowledge, do you have any specific grid that you've built on how to better assess what works best for the different projects? How do you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, it also depends on what the deliverable is. If it's Prevu3D, then we're pulling out our best and brightest scanners to make those meshes really sing. But we've done VLX with you guys as well. But yeah, it depends. I mean, with architectural surfaces, where we're just walking floor based, we'll use the VLX, and that makes a lot of sense. But if we have a project that has some sort of historic preservation element, or we need to scan the exterior of a building that might be, more than 3 floors, then we'll definitely use a terrestrial scanner. But like I said, on a lot of our projects, we'll use 3 different scanning sensors, and we'll merge all the data together into one data set. So, but that's a great question.
Absolutely.
And every project is a little different based on what that final deliverable is going to be. If it's a mesh, then there's some special consideration that we love to be able to put into that. So
absolutely. So we're almost out of time. So Peter, any famous last words, things that you want to complete this webinar on?
Oh wow.
Tough question.
No, I'm just grateful to be in this industry. Grateful to be able to be connected to folks like you. You guys are really unbelievable. You've been so generous with the relationship, and helping to promote us and sort of what we believe in. And we do the same with you guys, because we really think the world of you and the work that you're doing. And I'm just so impressed with what you're doing up there. But I just feel super lucky, and we're excited about the future. And again, if anybody on this wants to come down and hang out, just send us a message, and we'd love to be able to host folks down here. So it's a great spot.
Absolutely. We'll definitely take you on that invitation. Thanks again for your time today, Peter. It was really great to chat like this and share your expertise and experience and everything you've done in your career and with BIMstream. It's pretty impressive. Like, and every time you remind me on how much data you're doing in a month and how many employees you have now, I'm always impressed, because that's definitely quite an achievement, and you need to be really proud of that. And so thank you everyone for listening in today, and we're looking forward to our next sessions like this, and feel free to contact us anytime, both us and BIMstream, and we're more than happy to help you on whatever projects you want to work on. So thank you for this.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.